Earl Tennant stands in Dry Run Creek, filming with a VHS camera. The water runs green. Behind him, another cow is down. His brother Jim Tennant sold the upstream land to DuPont for a landfill. Earl's necropsy reports will crack open the largest corporate poisoning case in American history. Wilbur Earl Tennant was born March 6, 1942, in New England, West Virginia. His farm sat in Dry Run Hollow, Wood County, 7 miles from DuPont's Washington Works chemical plant. He and his wife Sandy had built their operation from 7 cows after Earl's father walked out. 600 acres. They knew every creek bed, every fence line. Early 1980s. Earl's brother Jim Tennant gets sick. The diagnosis never comes, but the medical bills do. Jim works for DuPont. When he needs money, DuPont offers to buy approximately 66 acres of his land. They call it the Dry Run Landfill. The agreement says it will take office waste, paper, scrap metal, glass. Jim Tennant's cattle can keep grazing. The landfill starts operating around 1984. For 9 years, the cattle grazed. The landfill operated. Nothing catastrophic happened. Then, in 1993, DuPont made a decision. Fall 1994, DuPont's Lead Art landfill closes. They transfer operations to the unlined Dry Run landfill on Jim Tennant's former land. What Earl does not know yet, between 1988 and 1994, DuPont had already dumped 7,100 tons of PFOA contaminated sludge into that pit. C8 concentrations as high as 610 parts per million. Post-1994, the volume increases. 10 to 14 truckloads of sludge daily pouring into the unlined pit. Leachate runs directly into Dry Run Creek. Earl's cattle drink there. Earl watches the creek change color. Milky at first, then greenish. The timing matches the landfill expansion perfectly. The cattle start dying, staggering, foaming at the mouth, going blind. Their teeth turn coal black. When Earl cuts them open, the organs are bright green. No veterinarian will come once DuPont's name is mentioned. Earl performs the field necropsies himself. He starts keeping a calendar with slash marks, one for every cattle death. 153 cattle by the time he contacts a lawyer. He buys a VHS camcorder, begins filming the necropsies, narrating his findings in that flat, controlled voice, building a legal record because he already knows no one believes him. There is one detail that defines the contamination. Scavengers will not touch the carcasses. No buzzards, no coyotes, nothing. Nature's cleanup system refuses the meat. Earl had the VHS video evidence. He had the timeline. He had 153 cattle deaths and hours of footage. What he did not have was a single person in Parkersburg, West Virginia, willing to help him. That was not an accident. Earl calls every veterinarian in Wood County. Once DuPont's name is mentioned, the line goes quiet or excuses appear. He contacts state agricultural agencies. His reports go into black holes. No follow-up, no investigation. Local lawyers refuse the case outright. DuPont is the largest employer in the region. Taking them on is career suicide. The Tennant family experiences something worse than bureaucratic indifference. Social ostracism. They walk into a restaurant, everyone gets up and leaves. They change churches 4 times because congregations will not have them. Jim Tennant's daughter develops breast cancer at 37. The family that sold the land and the family that farmed it both get poisoned, both get shunned. The economic context explains the silence. DuPont's Washington Works is the economic engine of Parkersburg. Politicians, journalists, doctors, veterinarians. Everyone understands the implied threat. Here is what the community did not understand. Their own drinking water had been contaminated since at least 1984. The year is 1984, an internal DuPont meeting, 11 company officials. The minutes record that C8 is in the public drinking water 79 miles downriver. The decision, documented. Elimination is not economically attractive. 70,000 people downstream, no warning. October 1998. Earl Tennant makes one final call. The man who answers is Rob Bilott, corporate defense attorney at Taft, Stettinius, and Hollister. Bilott's entire career has been spent representing the companies Earl is fighting. But there is a family connection. Bilott's grandmother knows Earl's family. He agrees to watch the VHS tapes as a favor, expecting to find nothing. What the VHS video evidence shows: Earl performing field necropsies, describing green organs and black teeth in that flat, methodical voice. A man building a legal record with no guarantee anyone will ever watch it. Bilott files a federal lawsuit summer 1999, Tennant versus E.I. DuPont Nemours. Case number 6:99CV00488. The year is 1961. DuPont chief toxicologist Dorothy Hood writes an internal memo. C8 should be handled with extreme care. This is 37 years before Earl calls Bilott. 1984, that internal meeting, the 11 officials, C8 confirmed in drinking water. Elimination, not economically attractive. 1988, DuPont internally classifies C8 as a confirmed animal carcinogen, sets an internal safety limit of 1 part per billion. Never discloses this to the EPA or the public. The same year, 1988, they dump 7,100 tons of PFOA contaminated sludge into the unlined, dry run landfill. 610 parts per million. 610 parts per million. DuPont's own internal safety limit was 1 part per billion. At that concentration, 1 gallon of the sludge they dumped could contaminate 610 million gallons of water to their own threshold. 1993. DuPont considers switching to a safer alternative chemistry. Internal analysis. Teflon is worth $1 billion in annual profit. Decision: continue using C8. Between 1951 and 2003, DuPont releases over 1.7 million pounds of PFOA into the environment from Washington Works. The cattle deaths were not a mystery DuPont needed to solve. They were a consequence DuPont had decided to accept in 1984 when elimination was deemed too expensive. Earl's 153 cattle deaths, Jim Tennant's guilt, the family's ostracism, all downstream consequences of a 1984 spreadsheet calculation. The Tennant case settled July 13, 2001. Undisclosed amount. Earl got his farm back, or what was left of it. But the VHS video evidence and the 110,000 pages Bilott extracted triggered a second wave. August 2001. Class action lawsuit. Leach versus DuPont, filed on behalf of approximately 70,000 people whose water was contaminated. The question the class action had to answer: did C8 in the water actually harm human health, or was this just environmental contamination with no proven medical consequence? Class action settlement approved February 28, 2005, valued at over $300 million. But the settlement included a condition: an independent scientific panel to determine if C8 caused disease. The C8 science panel enrolls 69,030 participants between 2005 and 2006, the largest epidemiological study of a single chemical exposure in history. 7 years of data collection and analysis. 2011 to 2012, the panel establishes probable links to 6 diseases: kidney cancer, testicular cancer, thyroid disease, ulcerative colitis, preeclampsia, high cholesterol. Probable link is the epidemiological standard. It means more likely than not that the exposure caused the disease at the population level. December 14, 2005, the EPA fines DuPont $16.5 million. At the time, the largest civil administrative penalty in EPA history for failing to report C8's health risks. The fine represents approximately 0.0016% of the $1 billion annual profit from Teflon that DuPont cited in 1993 when rejecting safer alternatives. February 13, 2017. Global settlement. $670.7 million between DuPont, Chemours, and plaintiffs. Resolution for 3,535 personal injury claims. The 2019 film Dark Waters was based on this case. The science panel published its final findings between 2011 and 2012. The global settlement came February 13, 2017. Earl Tennant passed away May 15, 2009. Age 67. Likely a cardiac event. though he had a cancer diagnosis. Sandy followed him 2 years later. They never saw the science confirmed. They never saw the $670 million. What they saw was a decade of fighting local institutions that refused to help, another decade waiting for science to confirm what his VHS video evidence showed in 1996. Jim Tennant lived with the knowledge that he sold the land that became the Dry Run landfill. But the brothers never turned on each other. They dissected cattle together. Jim Tennant describing the smell and the bright green innards to reporters years later. The Tennant settlement from 2001 was undisclosed. No public record shows whether Earl ever received enough to rebuild his herd or restore his land. Rob Bilott's career shifted permanently, from corporate defense to environmental prosecution. One family connection, in October 1998, redirected his entire professional life. The detail that defines the contamination persists. Scavengers still will not touch contaminated carcasses in PFOA zones. Nature's refusal remains the simplest proof that the chemistry never degraded. Dry Run Creek still flows through what was Earl Tennant's farm, the unlined Dry Run landfill that received 7,100 tons of PFOA sludge at 610 parts per million, is still there. This is not a redemption story. This is not a story about justice catching up. This is a story about a man who documented evidence for 153 cattle deaths with a VHS camera, because he understood that, without a record, no one would count. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button in the middle for more corporate negligence, environmental health disasters, and abandonment stories from across America and beyond. Then click the video on the left to watch similar stories, like this. Or if you really want to get stuck in, click the playlist on the right. New videos every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I'll see you in the next video.